I'm back. Holy moly, that was an experience earlier. Then I took a pause, ate some food, watched a video about the upcoming and current astrology, and it all made a lot of sense. And I want to pull cards now, and so I'm not gonna preface this with a whole bunch of whatever. I'm just gonna say what I've been feeling, which is that death is here. Death. For me, it's been the death of a past self, of an identity, and again, it's like this whole slew of past selves, but primarily realizing that after the end of my last relationship, which was 10 years, quite a long time, I experienced a sort of collapse. There had been several collapses of identity along the way. There was a pretty large one that happened when I had the accident that I was in, and that's a whole story. But then the end of that relationship, and what I was realizing is that with every collapse, it was like all of that energy rushed into a different facet of self. It rushed into identifying with something else. It was like, well, we don't have this to identify with anymore, so we're gonna kind of double down on this. We lost our sense of security and safety over here, so we're putting it all into this pocket. And then when that pocket collapsed, it was because very much a lot of my identity was in my relationship, especially after that accident. And that created a lot of issues for me, particularly because my developing spirituality and beliefs were at odds with my ex-partner, and so that was a whole thing. But then when that ended, it was like, okay, now we have the collapse of this facet of identity. We're putting it all into spirituality, and we're going into this, the spiritual self that does these things and has these experiences and is this identity. And you know, the vision was essentially to like be a monk, to go live alone, to be a hermit in the woods, and just do that, just be communing all day with nature and and earth and stuff. And then, you know, gradually I started to realize, well, I do actually want things. Like I have not rid myself of all desire, and it was a pretty sudden. I knew I wanted a loving, intimate relationship that was supportive of spirituality, that was spiritually focused, spiritually based, faith-based. That became evident to me, and then, you know, revealed to me as I'm asking for it. Gosh, I want a family. Like, I want to have this experience of being with kids, and I don't necessarily want to have those kids, like birth them myself, but it's a whole story of the vision as I received it, and knowing exactly who it was without knowing who it was. It was obscured. It was all outlines in the vision. But anyways, neither here nor there. That happened. And now it's time for the end of this. I'm gonna say last. I'm sure it's not the last, but the last version of identity, the last facet, this self that, the self that was alone, the self that was deeply unhappy, the self that felt misunderstood and had to prove herself, the self that was so deeply spiritually connected that it's like people don't understand me because I'm off in this other world. And that self has to go now. It's time. That self has passed away, is passing away, and I've been experiencing the resistance of that for quite a while now. I mean, it started with the start of the relationship that I am now in, but it's been building and building and building, and I've felt it sort of culminating. And especially this past like 2 weeks, and then it got stronger, and then really yesterday and today, it was like all of this grief, this sense of loss. And I do feel like it's bigger. I feel like there is a collective shifting taking place. I had felt like there's this collective death occurring. And I wasn't paying any attention to the astrology, but of course, as it turns out, Pluto plays a major role. Pluto is back in Capricorn at the 29th degree, which is the end of Capricorn. It's the end. It's destruction. It's total destruction. This is it. We're not just closing the door, we're blowing up the building. Like this apartment complex is no more. Where Pluto has stayed for the past 16 years, and then by extension, because that's just the last cycle from one sign to the next, it's been like 200 something years. The French Revolution, I'm pretty sure, was the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, which is where it's headed. So we've got the last 16 years as a cycle for our personal identities and lives, but then on this broader collective scale, we've got 200 plus years that's getting ready to be obliterated. And it's time. It's time for this. This is a really deep transformation, and it's death. And there's a lot of grief involved. The ego cannot experience any sort of change without perceiving it as a loss, as a death, and grieving it. And that is absolutely okay. It's allowed to grieve. I think we need to hold space for that grieving to occur, to really acknowledge, yes, this is a change, this is a transition. And while we understand it at the deeper soul level that nothing is ever lost, things are only ever changing form and evolving. Actually, there's no entropy, really. It's on a bigger level. It's all building into something greater. But it feels like a loss. It feels like a loss to ego. There have been a lot of things that we haven't acknowledged to ourselves feel that way, and because we never acknowledged it, we just told ourselves, get over it, move on. We never processed that grief. That grief still happened. Ego still felt that impact and said, ouch, this is a death, this is a loss, this hurts. And most of it, we were taught to kind of just overlook, to soldier on, or to judge ourselves for it. You're too sensitive, you're too whatever, you're caught in the trappings of the illusion, whatever it is. It doesn't fucking matter. That happened. Ego felt it. That grief is there, and it's time to start acknowledging it and to allow it to be felt, because that's the only way we can honor it. Really, that's what it's about. It's about honoring it. Yes, it's the only way that it can be allowed to move through, but that's not the point. That's not the point. The point is there was an experience. We had one side of the experience. Something happened that was interpreted through the lens and created a feeling of grief, but then we never allowed the other side of it. We never allowed the grief to be experienced, and it was a part of this experience, and so it's like that musical number isn't complete. We didn't hear the last couple of notes of that song. We paused it. We cut it off. We thought that we ended it, but we just put it on pause. That song would like to finish now. It's time for that song to play out, the last couple of notes. Those notes are the feeling of that grief, and it can be many different things. It'll be more than one thing, I'm sure, for many people, and I'm not saying we're going to feel it all at once either, but some big things that we've put on the back burner, things that hurt, things that felt like a loss that we never allowed ourselves to process, that experience, that's coming up. And a lot of it is to do with identity. A lot of our identities that we're losing involved losses. So it's like we can't let go of this identity without feeling and processing the loss that was a part of it. You know, it's complex, but all it really takes is allowing yourself to feel it. Is just when it happens, I believe it'll happen. When that feeling of grief comes, you just sit down and say, okay, here we go. I'm gonna feel this now. And that's it. Now is my time to feel this. And I invite you in, and I invite this experience to be, and you welcome it with the loving energy of Cancer. Cancer, a wonderful element to be at play here, that loving, nurturing energy that is accepting, and it's safe. It feels safe. We're creating a safe environment for this grief, this pain, whatever it is, to come through and to be felt. And so, yeah, that's what I want to talk about. I don't know exactly what the cards are going to say, but that's what I'm feeling. And it's time to drop the guard. Looking at the pre-shuffle here, I want to be more transparent about exactly how I'm reading cards moving forward, just because I would like to. Four of Cups, fueled by the Knight of Cups, is, the Four of Cups is that kind of defensiveness. It's time to drop the guard. It's time to drop the guard against the emotion, to let that emotion flow through, and keeping the heart space open, tapping into the heart. It's time to perceive through the heart, to stop perceiving through the mind, perceive through the heart, and really allow things to come through. This is a transformative space. This up here shit just gets cluttered and stuck. The mind is not made to process emotion. Sometimes, yes, thoughts will accompany the emotion as you're processing it, but they're just additional pieces. It's not, the processing doesn't happen up here. It happens right here. It happens in the feeling, and the mind is not designed to feel. It just isn't. Underneath that, we have the Lovers and fucking the Empress. That's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And the Hierophant beneath that. This is like, you have the power to do this. You are tapping into this deep well of unconditional love. The Lovers is a healing card. In the traditional tarot, it's got the Archangel Raphael, who is the angel of healing, on it. And I mean, just fueled by this deep, loving, infinitely loving energy. This is a deeply feminine energy. It's nurturing. I get the Cancerian aspect of it. It's time to just let that rise up and envelop whatever it is that you're feeling. You're inviting it in. You're not afraid of it. Some of this stuff has been here a really, really, really long time. These are just, it's old. It's old. I know a lot of it will be stuff from the past 16 years. Plenty of it, I believe, will be much, much older things from the collective element, the collective history of grief. We are collectively shifting our identity as human beings, as humanity, on so many levels. And so there are just layers and layers of this to be shed, but it's just holding this open, holding this door open, the door of the heart, whatever it is that wants to come through. We're not shutting anything out. We're not shutting anything out anymore. Whatever we're resisting, if you keep your door closed against enemies, you keep it closed against friends, right? So take the door off the hinges and let everything come through, and you'll start to see there are no enemies. There are no demons. That's a big part of this, really, is recognizing there is nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of feeling, first of all, and there's nothing to be afraid of letting in, because you have the power of love. You have the power to view and hold all things in love, to radiate love upon whatever it is that's in here. And then whatever it is that's in here, with the light of your love cast upon it, becomes that. It can't be anything other than what you are viewing it as. And viewing it with love, it becomes love. That's just what it is. Everything is transmuted by the power of your love, and you have access to that perspective of unconditional, pure love. When you are holding your attention in the heart space, you're focusing on really keeping it open and letting things flow through. That's just a pre-shuffle. That's what I'm feeling. That had been a message that I personally was receiving from readings I had done for myself, was keep your heart open. You're keeping out energy that you want when you're closing your heart off. Keep it open. Keep it open. You're safe to do this. Keep the heart space open. That's how everything is going to be allowed to flow through. Just keep focusing on that. And if you feel a little uncomfortable at any point when you receive an emotion, if whatever, an experience that feels intense and you're a little shaken by it, just call on energy to support you. I like calling on Archangel Michael energy without getting into the details of that being an entity or anything like that. I like that frequency of energy because it's very pure. It's just truth. It's just truth. And it is very loving, actually. It's a very calming, protective. It's not, I don't know, authoritative. It's not, I'm going to kick somebody's ass. It's not a bodyguard kind of energy. It's just a calm, supportive presence that is enhancing the light of truth, of discernment, and helping me feel safe to open with unconditional love to whatever it is that's coming through. That's the way that I feel it. So, overall energy of the reading is going to be the Six of Swords. It's time to move on. It is time to move on to something new, and we're moving through. There's pressure here. We're transiting through some choppy waters because we're moving into the smoother section on the other side. But there's a sense of pressure building. The intention's been set. We're already moving there. What is this? The deck just split. Yeah, there's the pressure. There's this forward motion happening. It's like, this is usually a canoe. In the traditional tarot, it's a slow moving energy. This is a really slow moving energy. It's got some force behind it. This has been building up for a while. This intention, you could say, has been set for a while. There's a friction element there. And there's the star. A while. This has been in play for a while, and now it's time. And it's time for it to punch through. What's on top? I'm talking about collective energy here. The way that I pull this reading, I learned to pull cards from watching Steve's Love Tarot, Total Transparency, and that's the style that spoke to me. Yes, I've watched plenty of other people pull cards, read cards. There are so many spreads. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. Do what feels good to you. For whatever reason, his method resonated with me, and I stick to it. I feel like it's pretty adaptable, either in the 3-card or the 6-card format. This is going to be 3 cards, or actually 6. I said 3. Should it be? No, I intended to pull 6. I intended to pull 6, and I'm going to stick with 6 because that still feels right. But the way the energy flows is a little bit differently between the two. He's usually pulling on the soulmate cycle, not every time. And so this first card, the first card out, is typically for him the card of the connection. And right now I'm using that as the card of connection to this collective energy because we are all individually connected to it. It's also sort of the mental space for me. Well, it can be how things are coming in through the mind. The middle card will be physical, so 3D, in the 3D behavioral type of energy, how that comes across. And then the third card is soul, 5D energy. In this type of spread, the energy flows from soul to 3D to mental or connection. Underneath connection, we have message from the universe, which is read with the connection. The connection is also read with the soul card. Those are sort of bookends of each other. And then we have the final outcome card, which is just a mildly predictive. There's nothing that's 100% ever, and it can really go a lot of different directions. It's just a generally predictive of how this may play out, which is very general in this circumstance because I'm just pulling on collective energy, and I just want a sort of general message for whoever is watching this video right now. So anyway, full disclosure, that's how I read the cards. So first card out, Page of Swords. It's a very introspective feeling. It is, and it does feel very small. There's a nervousness or unfamiliarity here. It feels like we're being pushed into something that we don't feel that we're ready for. We are ready. We are ready. Nothing happens that you're not ready for. But there's kind of a clinging. I get a little bit of a clinging element to it, and I'm drawn to just the feet as I'm saying that. The feet holding onto this sword, like we're not ready to take flight. We feel a little bit like a baby bird being pushed out of the nest, and I'm wondering if the Fool card is going to come up just because that's sort of the imagery on it. But that's what it feels like to me. It's nervous. There's a nervousness, a sort of general agitation floating around. Seven of Pentacles. These are also both cards of examination, of looking, of stop and look. This is a pause. We are being put on pause. There's been a lot of that lately. Stop and go. This is a big pause. In the astrology video, I want to mention this. In the astrology video, the astrologer who was fabulous, her name was Iris. I don't remember the name of the channel, but I'll try to look it up and add it to the description if I can. Was mentioning how oftentimes full moon in Capricorn is associated with looking at your goals and like what actions are you taking towards your goals and what can you check off your list. But this is not the time for that. This particular one with the element of Pluto, destructive, blowing shit up. Pluto is going to blow up a lot of those goals that you had set because those were a part of a past identity, a past self that is being shed. So it's time to let go of those goals. This is a great big pause. This is just a sit still and breathe. And you don't even... Yes, there's an element of looking, but I feel a lot more of allowing. It's allowing these things to pop up within you. You don't have to find them. You don't have to seek them out. They're going to appear. Whatever it is that you need to know, whatever it is you need to feel, it's going to appear for you, but you need to give yourself the space to allow that energy, to invite. That's the space, the stillness is inviting that energy in. When you're constantly going and doing and projecting, you're in the projection mode instead of the receiving mode. It's more about opening, sitting, breathing, opening to receive what's coming through. Soul energy. Seven of Swords. Stuff that we haven't looked at. We haven't wanted to look at it. I get a lot of that here. Again, this is red with the Page of Swords. We feel uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable. This is an uncomfortable transit. The things that we're being asked to look at are... they're just not easy. The truth is not always kind. It's just stuff that has been in there. It's been buried for a long time. And maybe we kind of... I don't want to say we kid ourselves, but we just... there was something blocking us from seeing this before. It just wasn't the right time to see it, I believe. I want to know more about that. I also do feel like the soul is kind of peeking through, getting that from the fox as it's peeking. It's the soul energy I don't know how to put this into words. I'm struggling to articulate this. I want to find out more with clarification. It's like something has been obscuring this. There's some sort of, I don't know why, I feel like it just wasn't ready yet. We weren't ready to have this shift. We weren't ready to see these truths. And now we're ready, and it's kind of timid, kind of tentative, but we're ready. It's time to step forward into this new path. Four of Swords, message from the universe. I feel like it's just reiterating the peace, the pause, the going within. Not using the mind. Again, we're not interpreting, we're not experiencing this from the mental space. Yeah, we want to let this stuff come up from within you. It will rise to the surface. You don't have to go digging for it. You don't have to scuba dive. You don't have to spelunk. This will be revealed. There is an element of mystery to this. I feel that with that Seven of Swords. It's being revealed to you. Just be open. Just be open to receiving what is revealed. Be willing to look at it. Be willing to sit with it, to take your time with it, to just be there. Be present for it. All that means is you're not pushing it away. You're not letting yourself be distracted. You're saying, okay, this is what I'm doing right now. Right now, I'm sitting in silence. I'm letting anything that wants to arise. And if and when it does, I am sitting with it. I'm giving my full attention, my full focus to it. I am pulling it into me. I'm inviting it in. I'm inviting it to flow through. That's it. Final outcome, flow. Ace of Cups. Tremendous flow. Heart open. There's a release. This is a release of that pressure. This is just like bursting out. We had the pressure building up here. It's not a bad thing that pressure is building up. It's building up to create a release. And that's what happens. And it's gratifying. It's satisfying. It's cathartic, I want to say. I mean, that's what grieving is. Saying goodbye, having some sort of ritual, some sort of process where you are making it really clear to yourself that you are saying goodbye to something. And in that process, you're allowing the full weight of that loss, that perceived loss, to be felt. You're allowing the full intensity of that grief to come through. And then it just transmutes into this beautiful thing. There's so much appreciation. There's so much peace on the other side of grief. There can be so much peace in grieving. It doesn't have to be the other side of it either. When you are really open to and accepting of your grief, it's such a beautiful thing to experience. And it's precious to pull that close to you. And gosh, it just opens your heart so much more too. When you are opening your heart to it and allowing it to be, when you are radiating that unconditional love, it's pulling you in. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. It's like stars getting closer to each other, and the field between them, the magnetic pull gets stronger as they're getting closer. I'm going to clarify it with a totally new deck today. So this is going to be different. I don't know how this is going to work. These decks have been hanging out together for a while, and I feel like they kind of jive, but we'll have to see. I've never asked them to work together. I've never asked this deck to work with anybody else. This is the Tattoo Tarot. There are different kinds. I don't know the artist for this. I don't have the box, but it was a gift from my brother and sister-in-law. And just at the bottom of that is Wheel of Fortune fueling the Nine of Cups. There's so much joy on the other side of this. And yes, it is a tremendous change. It's a big transformation. Something that's been here for a long time. Something that has been a part of us, been with us for a long time. That's been getting ready. It's been sitting still, kind of plotting its course. And that's been the soul guiding us this whole time, to not look at it just yet. I do feel that like there's been an obscuring from the soul level, actually, which is weird to say and weird to feel, but it is like a veil of, no, you're just not ready to see this yet, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and when you are ready to see it, and that veil is peeled back, it's full steam ahead, that kind of thing. Like, we needed the time to prepare. We needed the time to get ready for this. And now that we're ready for this, we're being shown so that we can go, oh, okay, I can do this. I know what to do. I know how to deal with this. I know how to feel this grief. I sit down and I let it wash through me. And I don't try to analyze it. I don't think about it. I don't let the feeling turn into thinking. I just let whatever comes up come up, and that's it. But let's clarify. Let's see. Page of Swords. Tell me about this Page of Swords. What can you tell me about the Page of Swords, please? Okay, just had a card fall out, so we're going to take that. But yeah, it's both the fear element, that we're a little bit afraid of this, but it's just going to come up. It's just, whatever we have to look at is just going to rise up. And the Queen of Wands actually fell out upside down. A lot of this has to do with what we have, what we thought we wanted, and what we created in an effort to achieve those goals. Yeah, where previously we may have been driven more by a desire for recognition, for social status, for material gain. It's all about the emotion now. It's all about the emotional satisfaction. It's all about loving ourselves, as I pulled the Lover's card from underneath here. It's all about loving ourselves, loving one another, our connection with self, which then becomes our connection with one another. Yeah, what else? Nine of Cups again, and that would be, yeah, it's not the pre-shuffle coming back, but because I pulled it, this Ace of Swords comes with it underneath. There's a desire for authenticity. There's a desire for truth. There's a recognition that what is satisfying is truth. What is satisfying is representing ourselves truly. This is also that energy of Archangel Michael wielding the Sword of Truth. That's floating around here as just supportive. Again, if you feel like you're having a hard time, if you feel at all afraid of what is coming through you, just ask this energy. You can ask the Sword of Truth. You can ask the Ace of Swords. It doesn't have to be Archangel Michael, but this frequency of energy is just really illuminating in a clear and concise way, but a way that is not aggressive. All of this, of course, is to our benefit. Which means to our joy, because it's good for you to feel good. So what is to your benefit is to your greatest joy, actually. We're finding out, we're discovering that some of the goals, a lot of the goals that we set for ourselves aren't really what we want anymore. They aren't our true wishes. And that's just clearing room for what is. But again, you don't have to search for that. That's going to come up. Don't involve the mind. I want to say this. Don't involve the mind in this process. The mind is where these came from. This is the false desires, the things you thought you wanted. That's where that comes from. And the mind will step in the way of your understanding of what your true desire is. And it's very fucking tricky. I know from experience, it's very fucking tricky. And it will try to turn you back. It will try to turn you back towards this identity and the desires of the identity that you are shedding. But you know in here. Trust your intuition. Trust the impulse. If you can feel that your mind is steering you by way of fear, if you feel that you are afraid to move forward because of this clinging to an old identity, that's all you need to know right there. That's not a true desire. That's fear. That is fear, keeping you stuck, keeping you invested in this old identity, which was never you to begin with. But this identity, this story about yourself, and the story of that self and what that self wanted. And if you feel pressured by your mind, if you feel pressured by any kind of negative emotion to head back that direction, recognize that is the identity you're shedding. That is the identity that is aware it's being shed. And that's why it's trying to pull you back into it, to say, oh, no, this, don't you remember this is what you wanted? Don't you remember? You wanted this. You still want this. That's not how the soul operates. That's the kind of shit that tries to masquerade as soul, telling you what your desires are. But it tells you with negative emotion. It tells you with fear. And it's using that fear to push you away from what it is you actually want. This is tricky. It's been tricky for me, at least, a lot of times in my life to navigate this, to understand what it is that I'm actually being guided towards. And you know what? You can't fuck it up. You can't get it wrong. This is all a game, and this is all for fun. And there's nothing serious. There's nothing at stake here. You can't get it wrong. I'm saying, just, if you want to listen, if you want to refine your discernment, keep shedding identity and keep shedding the desires of that identity, because they were never yours to begin with. They never belonged to you. That was all part of the story, part of this idea. What you truly want just naturally inspires positive feeling in you. It just comes out. There's no planning associated. There's no calculating associated. It doesn't have anything to do with other people. Even if other people are involved, that's not the place that it comes from. It doesn't emerge from there. The mind will do things like give you a desire because it wants to be appreciated by other people. It wants other people's approval. So it gives you the desire for this kind of success, the approved, the socially approved success, that kind of thing. The soul just sees something that feels good and goes, oh yeah, I want that. I want that. And I'm not explaining why. I don't have any reasons why. The soul will never explain itself. It just says because it feels good. That's it. That is the most explanation you will get from the soul as to why something is desired. I want it because I want it, because it feels good, because I want it. That's it. The mind will have a lot more reasons. It'll tell you, and ultimately the path that it's pushing you down will be one that feels safer, it feels more familiar, and it feels certain. That's where the mind and its desires tend to lead. The mind prefers certainty. The mind prefers predictability. So it will say, yes, I want this because this feels safe, this feels secure because I feel that I can comfortably predict this, most likely because it's familiar, because it's something I've already experienced. It wants to stay in the old experience that it's used to. There's nothing dangerous about that. To the mind, everything that has not yet been experienced and therefore can't be perhaps predicted is danger. And it wants to stay out of danger. So that's the mind's desire, is to stay out of danger. The soul knows there is no danger, there is no risk. That's not even a consideration. It just wants what it wants and it goes that direction. And very often the direction of the soul's desire is precisely where the mind is presenting all of this fear. It's putting up a wall of fear in front of what it is you actually want and saying, no, 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 you don't want that. You want this over here that's safe and certain, and we're comfortable with it, and just forget all of this unknown stuff. The mind cannot stand unknown. It abhors it. And of course, that's exactly what the soul wants. Use your judgment. We're talking about the Seven of Pentacles now. Use your discernment. That's what true judgment is. It's not judgment the way the mind interprets it, which the mind judges things as good or bad. The soul judges. It means discernment. The soul judges the quality of the texture of this energy. Is this pure? Is this true? There's no good or bad attached to it. It's just, is this true? Is this true for me? Am I being driven by desire or by fear? Am I being driven by a sort of craving? Oh, my battery's dying. I better hurry up with this. Because craving is also based in fear. It's like the need. I need to have it. I'm afraid of what happens if I don't. I'm craving, I'm clinging, I'm attached to it. Or is it just a free floating, yeah, I like this, so I get to go towards it because I want to, that kind of thing. It is also more of that revelation kind of energy, that just things are being revealed to us. Two of Swords, yeah, what are we keeping out as well? What have we denied ourselves access to because we were afraid of letting something in? There's a lot that's been kept at bay, a lot of things that we actually really want because we've been attached to this old identity. And also because of the unprocessed emotion that resides there. Whatever it is we're trying to keep out, whatever it is we're resisting, it's keeping everything out. It's more of that. We need to really embrace openness. There's that Four of Swords again. Message from the universe. More about, yeah, staying open, going within, staying open, stop resisting. You will be able to discern truth from false in here. Not up here, not in the mental space. The mental space is full of obfuscation, it's full of deception. You will not be able to tell truth from false with your mind, only with the heart. Use the heart. That's why the heart is weighed, when it's weighed against the feather too. This is where all the truth, this is where all the actuality resides, in here. If you're looking for an answer, ask a question and sit in silence and expect to receive that answer as a feeling inside the heart. And recognize that the soul will never speak to you through fear. The soul does not use fear. The soul does not use negative emotion. Sometimes you can look at it the other way too. You can recognize if you do get a fear response, move the opposite way. Go the opposite direction of the fear response. So what is it that I want? And then if you feel, you get an inclination and you feel fear around that, you want to lean into the fear. Whatever it is the fear is telling you to go away from, go towards that. Tell me about the Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords, please. I don't know how much time I have left with this. There's the Empress again. Yeah, trust the feminine, trust intuition. This is not about the mind. Not at all. There is an element of that grief here too. Yeah, grieving what has been what's been left behind, but also what we haven't allowed to come in. That's interesting. What's on top? This was throwing me for a loop over here. We thought we knew what we wanted. We thought we had it all. We thought we had it all. I also want to say we thought we knew what love was. We thought we knew what success was. There's a redefining. And it's okay to recognize that these things that we thought we wanted, and maybe we had, or we thought we had, whatever, letting go of that will create a sense of loss. There will be grief there. Hold space for that. Hold a compassionate space for that, for recognizing this is no longer me. This maybe never was actually, it never was actually you, but this is not me, and I'm letting go of this past identity, and I'm grieving the loss, and I'm grieving the loss of all of the things that maybe this identity even wanted. Yeah, there's a lot of healing, there's a lot of transformative power in that, in acknowledging that this identity was something that you created. This identity, while not being you, was born from you, and it served a purpose. It served a purpose, and we can honor its life, and we can honor its desires, and we can grieve the ending of those things, and that is far more transformative and healing than just rejecting it and saying, not me, kicking you to the curb, dust, whatever, you know, I'm done with you. Recognizing that this was born from you. This has your energy. This is imbued with your energy. And it served a role, and it had a sort of life of its own that you gave it. And you can mourn the loss. You can grieve the loss. You can hold, you can thank, first of all, that identity for existing. And send it off with love. Send it off with love. Allow the grief for that loss to be felt, even the loss of the things that this identity desired, all the components of it, whatever grief there is, allow that to come through. And let it move on, let it pass on with love, with appreciation. Tell me about this Four of Swords. Tell me about this Four of Swords. I have a feeling that this phone is going to die before this reading is over, but we're going to scoot. Tell me about the Four of Swords, please. Okay. The Nine of Swords jumped out. The energy around it is Ten of Swords. It's an ending. It's an ending. Endings can create a lot of anxiety. Yeah, absolutely. Sit with that feeling. Don't push it away. Allow it to be there. Don't push away the grief. Five of Cups. That Five of Cups came back. It was over here as well. Sit in silence with the anxiety, with the fear, with the grief. Recognize there was an identity that thought it was you, that has its own sort of life force, which you imbued it with, that is coming to an end, and that it has a lot of fear. How would you treat anyone who is facing the end of life, the end of the physical form, and has anxiety about that transition, and has grief, has regrets maybe about the things that they didn't do, that they wanted to do? That's this. That is this. This is a child that you have created that is passing on now. And it has anxieties, it has fears, it has regrets, and it's important to hold space for that grief, for that energy to be felt, to be experienced, and just to feel it. That's it. Just allow it to be felt. There's so much beauty in that. There's so much, I mean, it is so profoundly healing, and it feels good. It feels good. And it opens everything up for you too, of course. You're an open vessel. If you want to be open to everything, you got to be open to everything. You want to be open, you want to live from the heart space, that means staying open to all of it, open to the grief. Tell me about this Ace of Cups. It's a final card. I have no idea if I'll get through this, but I'm trying. Tell me about the Ace of Cups, please. There's the Sun. On the other side of this, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's happy. It's peace. It's clarity. What's on top? Three of Swords. On the other side of this pain that we have been blocking out, this pain is the portal. This pain is the portal. The pain that we have been keeping out, that we've been refusing to feel, that maybe we weren't ready to feel, that we couldn't see yet. There's pain here that was hidden from us. Pain that was hidden in this past identity, but because we were so enveloped in the identity, we couldn't even really see the pain buried in it. Now that we have a little bit of distance to recognize, oh, this identity is not myself, I'm letting go of this self. But look at all of this pain. We have to look at the pain that was bundled up in that past self and let that pain be felt. That's a part of processing this. That's a part of letting that identity go. We have to allow the pain that identity experienced to be felt. We have to let that grief come through. Three of Swords, Seven of Wands. Red with the Four of Swords. Again, dropping the guard. Same message as before. I don't remember what it was. The Four of Cups, I think, and the Knight of Cups. Dropping the guard. Letting it happen. Just taking a deep breath and letting it out. There's a purging element to this energy. Whatever it is that needs to come through, just get into it, bear down into it, and let it happen. We're not bearing down against it. We're just in it. We're sinking into it, and we're letting it. We're inviting it in fully. No guard up here. We're inviting it in and letting it through. That's critical. And there's the Four of Cups. It flew. It stuck to my hand as I was picking up the deck. Let it in. Drop the guard. No defensiveness against this. This is an honored guest. This is our friend. Demons are angels. No reason to have your guard up against this. Invite them in. They want to speak with you. They want to be witnessed. They want to be heard. They want your love, the love of your witness and your acceptance shown upon them. And again, if you feel any level of discomfort, invite whatever energy that you feel works for you, but I strongly recommend the energy of Archangel Michael. Again, not masculine, not overbearing, just gentle and calm and supportive, and just like, you can do this kind of energy. And everything is safe. Everything is, you're protected. There's nothing to be afraid of here. There is no risk. There's no threat. It's just a little bit of backup, just to give you a little oomph and help you feel comfortable in opening fully to receiving, because these are heavy energies. They're heavy. They're dense. They're dark. And it can be really uncomfortable to bring that kind of thing through, but that's what we're here to do, is to, you don't fight darkness. There's no fight, there's no war happening. We're here to shine light on everything. And by doing so, we bring it all back into light. We realize that everything is light. It's all the same. It is all the same shit. It's all presence. Doesn't matter what you think it is, what you call it, that's just an appearance, that's just surface level stuff. It's all presence. You are really just sitting with presence. Sitting with grief, sitting with anxiety is just sitting with the presence of. That's it. So invite that angel in, the angel that is wearing the form of grief. Let the angel of grief, let the angel of anxiety sit with you, move through you, invite that experience in. I promise you want it. I promise you it's healing. I promise you it is so powerfully transformative. And it really feels incredibly good. When you are not resistant to it, when you're open to it, it feels amazing. And there's so much wonder on the other side of this too. There's so much wonder in the process, really. It's not a result, it's not an outcome. It's just the result of being in this process, if that makes sense. It's being there, and that experience is amazing. So I'm gonna leave it there, because I think the phone's gonna die pretty soon. That's the message. I hope it resonates. I'm a little rusty at this, and I've never used these cards together before, so that was pretty interesting. But it's just, you know what? I don't do this because